friend, it's Pat Sloan here. So May 2nd, a celebration is play your ukulele. Do you have a quilt with a ukulele on it? Like maybe the fabric? I don't think that's super common. You probably find guitars more, but there's probably somebody out there that has one. So if you do, share it over at Quilt Along with Pat Sloan. Can't wait to see it. Can't wait. So we have two things today. I think that's going to fit in. One is Heart of America. I've got all the star points done. First is take a look at this other little video clip. So what I have at this point, I'm going to point out the points of the stars, is that each of these sets is identical. So that if I were to take this and rotate it, here, I'll just put it right here next to it so you can see these are identical blocks, and when I rotate them they do look different. And so one thing that you could do to make it seem random, come on, get on there, to seem random, is to just leave them like that, because they're not bad. The only thing is I've got a star right here, star, no likey that. So I can't remedy that, because if I rotate, what I have to do is I'd have to switch that whole set. Switch a set so that star's not there. But I think otherwise I'm just going to do it like that. Rather than trying to rearrange them and make myself crazy, I am going to, because they all have all 6 fabrics. There are 6 different fabrics and they have all of them, each star point. Yeah, it looks pretty good. The only thing I want to do is I do not want those two across from each other like that, those stars. So that's the only thing I'll fix. It's good. So that looks really good. I'm happy with that. I sewed them into units. So basically I have, let me just grab one. I have 4 of these. And now on the pattern, we're going to go on the other side of the table. On the pattern is next to do the 4 corner squares, the big squares, and then the half square triangles that go all around, which are blue. So we are going to work on blue. And after that, I have a super fun project, or not project, super fun unboxing, something that I did the other day, and I've saved it all to show you on video. But first we're going to do this. Now you can look at the pattern. Remember, it's a free pattern from the Fat Quarter Shop, and you can see that we need to have not only the 4 corners, but there is a little background of border around that, and then the half square triangles. So first let's just talk about the squares for the corners. You need a big square ruler. If you have not yet bought yourself a square ruler, they come in so useful for so many things. You want to do that. It's just easier to have the right tool, and a square ruler, you cannot go wrong. You could buy the bigger square, like the 20-inch, or this one is a 12.5. Most of the rulers now come at the half mark, because that's what we're doing. But this is actually cut at 11 inches. And so it's doubles, the fabric is folded. It's right off the bolt folded. So I am just going to cut a strip, because the strip is going to be easier in the long run. I'll have a little bit extra, which I'm going to need for the other half of the half square triangles, so that all works out. So I am just going to cut a strip using the square. I just slide it along like this, and that does work out, because your long ruler is generally 6.5, and so it is not, wide enough, and then so you'd have to bank up multiple rulers, and I just find this to be easier. So I will cut off real quick the selvage, and then 2 sets of squares. And I could have doubled that, but I didn't. And if I doubled it, there'd be like a little strip left, and the strip is more usable if you do them single. So I've got one. I don't think I'm going to have that much left. No, I'm not even going to be able to do from the strip. I can do 3. Okay. All right, so I'm just going to keep this for the half square triangles, and I'll cut the other strip and do the other 4 squares. So I've got 4 squares cut, and then I have these extras that I can use for the half square triangles, which is perfect. There are a set of blues that came. You could repeat them more or not, however it works for you and what your fabric is that you're working with. Since I am using the fabric collection that they put in the pattern, I actually have that number of blue fabrics. And you can see here, this is what I want to show you. What they did to make, I think this makes it easier. Each of the peaks is the same fabrics. Now, of course, if you wanted, you could make all of these as flying geese. The pattern has it as half square triangles. And we have the papers, which are finished there we go, finished 3.5 inch. So that is, if you're going to use the triangles on a roll paper, that is the one that you're going to use. I am just going to cut like the directions because of with the bigger ones, I tend to find it just as easy. And I am going to go ahead and do half square triangles, but you can certainly convert that to flying geese, which a lot of you might want to do, particularly if maybe you have a fabric that is real, you know, has got a lot of pattern on it, something like that. Remember, if there are flying geese methods that are low waist, very low waist, but a lot of the traditional sew and flips create a lot of extra fabrics that you're not going to use. And so I don't want any waste. And I don't want to do the calculations for all that. I'm just going to do half square triangles. I like half square triangles. So this is what I have to do. Cut all of these guys and make all of them that are needed. And I will also this week sew the 4 corners on and do the border all around. So you can see that there, 4 corners and then that inner border so that the star floats, because that lets the star float away. After that, we just have top and bottom strips, which make the quilt just a little bit longer. You don't even have to put those on if you don't want to, if you're going to maybe use this as a wall hanging or maybe a child's quilt or something, or a lap, or maybe a wheelchair quilt where it doesn't have to be that much bigger. It just makes it a square. You could and we change it into a rectangle. So here's the finished where you see we change it into a rectangle, which is 60 by 70. So it gives a more length if you have somebody that's going to use it as a lap quilt. Okay, so let me make a couple of these and show you what they look like. So all the squares are cut, ta-da, and I have half square triangles. So I'm doing 2 at a time, 2 at a time, and this is the way I handle that. I use this ruler. Let me show it to you. It is a Quilt in a Day ruler. There's variations of these. I just happen to like this one. I've used it for a very long time. I need to make a 4-inch finished half square triangle. So on here, there's full numbers on one side and the half numbers on the other. So I'm going to line up the full number 4 on the seam, right on the seam. There's a line across here and it goes right on the seam. There we go. And then trim. So you're going to trim on 2 sides like this. And then I just do a little angle thing and cut those little dog ears off so that when I open this, I will press it to the dark side, press to the dark side. So that is the finished size, and here are 2 of them pressed. Now if you want to nest them, then press the seam one side to the dark and the other side to the light, so that when you sew them together they are nested, and it makes the bulk of this corner less. So you've got 1 pressed to the light, 1 pressed to the dark, see? And then here it is for the unit. So we have to do units for all the way around. and I'm using the half square triangles. So there, that is what I have for this week for Heart of America. And I will be working on that. I've cut the strips for that inner border, the squares you already saw, so I'll be sewing all of those. Okay, for the rest of this video, we are going to look at an amazing, fun thing that I did and received. And I have not opened what I received, which is vintage. It's vintage. And so I'm going to move this stuff and go get everything, and I'll be right back. So I want to tell you that Kate just wrote me and said that all of the merchandise at her store, both mine and her items like this, are on 15% off until May 6th. So you want to get in on t-shirts and mugs and the cups, insulated cups, tote bags, zipper bags, notebooks, everything. So be sure you get yourself over there and pick up what you've been looking. And the buttons are there too. So yes. Are you ready? I'm so ready. Let me just start out. Let me just set the mood. Just sit right back and you'll hear a tale of a fateful trip that started in this very room with a keyboard and something that I'd get. Okay, so let me set the stage. There have always been clothing made from quilts or patchwork. When I first started quilting, we would put quilt blocks on, everything. If it didn't move, it had a quilt block on it. And it would go in phases. But a few years back, if you will recall, there were a lot of fashion designers that started using quilts as the basis for like sort of high impact clothing for big charity events and that kind of a thing. So you would see this quilts in the clothing. And then it started to become a little bit more mainstream, and the quilters started taking quilts and making them into jackets and coveralls and skirts and whatever. So even Target, maybe 3 years ago now, came out in the fall with these barn jackets. Do you remember that? So I have this one, and our ambassador Suzanne sent me the darker color one, and she has the darker color one, and bunches of you bought this. And so that is, and the desire for a jacket or a piece of clothing made with a quilt has not really diminished. It is out there, and if you've gone to a quilt show, you've probably seen some clothing made from quilts, and there are classes in many of your shops doing this. So fast forward, the ambassadors and I were all just chatting about something, and we share things that we see with each other because that just makes it more fun. And Bobby sent over an image of this. She found this website where they were making a bunch of clothing from quilt, and some of them were vintage quilts, and using them, having somebody use them and love them as a piece of clothing is not a bad thing to me. But the one that she showed me that I was like, oh, I forgot about that quilt so she showed this one, and it had this eagle quilt, and I had totally forgotten about that eagle quilt, and I have always loved it, and I didn't know a whole lot about it. So I thought, I'm going to find out more about that quilt today. So let me show you the quilt, not as an article of clothing. So here it is. And I've always thought it's very folk art. The pieces are big. And I always thought I would just love to make that. So I wondered if there was a pattern, because I was pretty sure it was a kit. So there's a group online called Vintage Quilts and Antiques. And it has a lot of quilt dealers and people who love antique quilts, and a lot of appraisers are in there, and they share a lot of vintage quilts. And so I went in there and asked, I shared a picture and asked if this had ever been, what was the history behind it? Was it ever a single pattern? Was it a kit? And so a bunch of people came back saying that it was just a kit. It was never a single pattern that they knew of. That doesn't mean things are as they seem. It also is from the quilt resurgence of the 70s. So it was somewhere, this kit came out in 76 was a bicentennial. So things came out before the bicentennial, so people could actually make them, right? So 75, 74. And my friend Robin Kohler, who you may know her website, Nestlings by Robin, and she's fabulous. She's also an appraiser, and she knows a lot about antique quilts. And so she said, as far as she knew, it was just a kit. So I was telling the ambassadors about that, and then Melissa did some research, and she said, this magazine, it's saying online, had something about that quilt in it. So I'm like, okay, I need this magazine. Of course, this magazine is from 1961, which is quite a bit before the bicentennial. And so I thought maybe it has the pattern. So I wrote to the eBay seller, who was very responsive and wrote back right away and shared me a couple of pictures. And so let me just show you what's in this magazine. So in 1961, this quilt was featured in the Good Housekeeping magazine, and it is called American Glory Quilt. It is just a kit. It is inspired by the 1850 original, which is now in the Philadelphia Museum of Art, which I'll have to do a little bit of research on that. I haven't done that yet. It's kind of a Pennsylvania Dutch style, and you could only get it by a kit, which was by the Paragon Company, which put out zillions of kits. So I'm like, okay, well, you know, so it's not a pattern in here. But let me see what that other page is that the seller sent to me. Also, it's so fun to look through these magazines. You see lots of crazy stuff. So it's actually applique directions, and you could write and get the kit for $12 in 1961. So goodness, what was this? It's a double size. Okay, the quilt top kit was $12. The double bedside was $14. Matching single size quilt backing you got for $3, the backing, and yeah, a matching double size. I don't know what that is. Okay, so you would just order it through the Good Housekeeping Company. Did orders, but here's like the basics of applique and some basics of quilting. So I am just so thrilled to have this, just so thrilled. Well, when I was in that Quilts and Vintage group at Facebook, I got another note in the comments from a lady, Pam, and she said, I have one of the kits. Would you be interested in it? So I was like, well, let's see, because I really didn't want to make it in the vintage fabric. I want to make it in newer fabric. Fabric from the 1970s does not feel that great. It does not. So I thought, well, I don't know what she's selling it for. So we wrote back and forth, and it turns out she doesn't live that far from here, just stayed over. And it turns out she took a class from me years ago. And she actually had, I wanted to know, well, how did you come about getting this? She bid at an auction for an organization's auction, a quilt organization, and she won the bid and got it because she said she wanted to make it herself, and that she's realized that just hasn't happened, and she's had it a while. So she thought, you know, would I like it? And I said, well, how much are you asking? And she said that I could have it for the cost of postage. Score! It's like, I was like, yes, thank you so much. This is an amazing gift. I will definitely take it for the cost of postage. So I have not opened it because I wanted to do it here with you guys. I am so excited. So I have not opened it. Let me get it organized here so we have space. Now, she did send me some pictures of it, so I knew what it looked like or what status it was in, you know, so it wasn't like ripped up or anything like that. So here's how it came. There is part of it. Here is the front. So this is what a kit looked like. So it's different, right, than what you're expecting maybe, because you think of kits now, like what we have for kits, it looks a little different. So let's see what's in it. You are seeing it first time with me. Okay, I have not opened it. Oh, see, you're going to applique it, and you're going to put those shapes on top of this huge background that they have in here. They have the whole background marked. Those marks probably are not going to come out. And then here's from Good Housekeeping. I don't know if this was exclusive for Good Housekeeping. Robin told me that there is a company that that has a subscription service for people who are antique dealers and appraisers and stuff that they can subscribe to learn about the kits and things. Probably could do your own research too if you were so desired. And then on the back, some basic quilting instructions. There you go. Make a quilt. There's all you need. 1 page of directions. This is so fun. This is so fun. So here we go. See, I don't think she worked on it, the lady who bought it, Pam. I think she purchased it like this, partially done. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. So you can see here, how does this look? So here is the border. See, and it's got like numbers. Can you see that? They're upside down to you. But can you see the numbers? So it's got 211, 210, 202, and then see, double size quilt. See, double size quilt. So all this is printed on here. See, there's the daisy. See the daisy? Okay, let's get to the eagle. It looks like, oh, look here. Look here. Oh my goodness. This is just so darn exciting. So like those little blue dots were there because they were quilting lines. And I think in the past they would have actually been able to be washed out. And whether over time that's still able to be washed out would be questionable because there's just a lot of, okay, I need to open this up some so we can take a look. So hold on. So isn't this eagle just glorious? These stars are appliqué. Everything is appliqué. There's no patchwork on here. It's all appliqué. The stems are like one strip, and then underneath the leaves and other stems are tucked underneath. Do I have a daisy? I have a daisy. Oh, and these kind of Dutch tulips out here. See them? Oh, look at that. Look at that. And then this bag has the rest of the parts. So somebody, got it all. So here we can see on the red. Things are marked to cut. Do you see? Oh my goodness, it's kind of a mess, this bag, isn't it? And then here is some of, these are stems. The stems. And the yellow for flowers, which is also very hard to see, but it is marked. There are markings on there. And like here's a group of, tulip parts. Oh my, oh my, oh my. Yeah, this is just the most spectacular thing. How exciting. I don't know. Should I finish it someday? That would be crazy. That would be crazy because, this fabric here, there you can see a seam. You see the seam? This fabric is not great. It's really thin, muslin. Yeah, not my fave. And then it's going to have all that blue on there. I don't know. It might be something fun to preserve. Ah, so exciting. So exciting. I would like to draw off a pattern for myself to make one with more modern fabrics and with a, modern quality fabrics, and then a background that's not so thin and doesn't have blue dots all over it. So yeah, so this is, let me see if I can hold it here. Here we go. It's, like it's a double bed quilt, and a lot of it's just this, knot. But see the eagle, hold on, let me just get it organized. So let me just hold it up in front of me. So I think you can see the eagle and see the wreath around it. So it is so big. It is so big. Lots and lots of border. It's basically a whole cloth. They've seamed it, but it's basically a whole cloth of, what did I say, a double bed? Is that right? Yeah, one double bed, whole cloth eagle. All right, my friend, this has been a super exciting day. I thank Pam for making my day, and my ambassadors for showing me things that got me down a rabbit hole to something super, super wonderful. Okay, I love you. Mwah. Thank you for being here in the Sloan Zone. I will see you online.